And today's story, first, is a story from a girl. This girl lives in Saigon. She sent a message to tell our channel 3 stories. Among these 3 stories, 2 are from her close friend, and 1 she witnessed herself. In today's episode, I will tell the first story first. The remaining 2 stories, I will tell in the next 2 episodes, okay? This first story is from a close friend who works at the same company as her, named Lily. Lily retold a story that happened at her maternal grandparents' house. And this story happened many years ago. At that time, Lily was still in university. Lily said that back then, her parents' house was in the suburbs, far from the city. So when her older sister and Lily went to university, the 2 sisters had to go to their maternal grandparents' house in the city to stay. Because their grandparents' house was very close to the school, it was more convenient for studying. I don't know exactly where Lily's grandparents' house was, but Lily said that although their house was old, the land was very large, and it was right on the main road. The width was wide, and the depth was also deep. The land was perfectly square and beautiful. But for some unknown reason, Lily's grandparents had been trying to sell this piece of land for over 10 years. And even though many people came to see the land and really liked it, some even put down a deposit, and some scheduled a day to pay the money and take the land, in the end, nobody bought it. The first example was when the grandparents had just started trying to sell the land. At that time, there was a family from CA everyone. They came up to see the land. They intended to tear down the grandparents' old house, and then they would build a new, proper house, and the family would move up here to live. But when they came to see it, they loved it. They put down a deposit and promised to come back in a month to pay the rest of the money for the house, and then the grandparents would hand over the land. Well, during that time, they went back to their hometown to do business, and somehow, their business suddenly failed. They didn't have the money to pay the rest. Therefore, they forfeited their deposit and didn't buy the land. So, that was the first case. The second case was an old man. Lily said this old man was very old. And when he came to see the grandparents' land, he was leaning on a cane, walking and trembling. When he looked at the land, he really liked it, he just kept nodding. He said he intended to buy this piece of land for his son and daughter-in-law, for the couple to have as their own. He promised that the next day, he would bring the money over, go to the notary, and buy it outright, no deposit needed. The grandparents heard that and were very happy. But the next day, the old man's son ran over. He informed the grandparents not to wait anymore. Because yesterday, after coming back from seeing the land, his father had a stroke that night and passed away. The family decided they would not buy the land anymore. So that was the second case, everyone. Then, another case, a very wealthy woman. This woman also came to see the grandparents' land once and really liked it. She intended to buy it, so she decided to come see it one more time. When she came to see the land again, she nodded and said, "Oh my God, this land is so beautiful. If I tear down the old house and build a new one here, it will be gorgeous because the land is so big. I could even build a villa." And that day, she liked it that much, everyone, but suddenly she looked across the street. The house opposite the grandparents' house, across the street, that day, the owners brought out a house for sale sign to hang up front because they also intended to sell their house. So this lady, who was standing here looking at our land, suddenly looked over there and saw them hanging the sign. She went over there and asked, "Oh, is this house for sale?" Then she went in, looked at the house, and bought that house right away, everyone. But she didn't buy Lily's grandparents' land. Isn't that absurdly unlucky? Even though she really liked our land, she suddenly bought the house across the street. Just like that, so strange. So, for over 10 years, many people came to see it, but it all fell through, it couldn't be sold. And Lily said that when she and her sister stayed here, the 2 of them were constantly sleep paralyzed. Constantly. Lily's personality is fierce, so every time she was sleep paralyzed, she would often use a stick to fight back, and after that, it wouldn't happen to her anymore. As for Lily's older sister, she was gentler. And this sister said it was so uncomfortable. Every time she slept, she always had the feeling like someone was lying right next to her, their face right up against hers. But when Lily's sister opened her eyes, she saw no one. It happened continuously like that, but when she told her grandparents, they didn't believe her. Because Lily's grandparents are religious, when they talk about ghosts, they tend to dismiss it. As for Lily's grandmother, Lily said that even though the dishes in the house were washed clean and put away neatly, during the entire time they lived in this house, every night, at exactly 12 a.m., Lily's grandmother would wake up, she wouldn't sleep anymore. She would go to the back, start pulling out the dishes, clean dishes, everyone, pulling out clean dishes and cups, bringing them down to wash. After washing, she'd put them back up. Every single night. Every night it was clatter, clatter, even though it was the same every day. When the family said something, she wouldn't listen. she'd say, "Leave me alone." But it was every single night. I don't understand why grandmother did that. And during the time the two sisters stayed here, the grandfather was very difficult. So, often, the two sisters would do something he didn't like, and he would yell. When he yelled, the grandmother would defend the two sisters. So the grandparents would argue. And every time Lily's grandparents argued, the grandmother would kick the grandfather out of the house. Every time that happened, the grandfather would leave the house for about 10 days, half a month, before coming back. I'm telling you, life was so suffocating. Lily said that during the time she stayed here for school, life was so uncomfortable, so suffocating, it was just so strange, and you couldn't explain it. Then suddenly, one day, in that neighborhood, there was a woman. She had a relative, this man everyone called Mr. Sow, Mr. Six. Mr. Sow that year was about 40, or a little over 40. Lily's first impression when meeting this Mr. Sow was that he was tall and slender, skinny. And looking at him, he just looked like a normal laborer, but there was something about his aura. When you looked at him, you felt scared, you felt awestruck. I don't know why. So that day, the neighbor lady, she led Mr. Sow around the neighborhood. She said, "Oh my God, everyone, remember? It's Sow. He's my cousin, he used to live here. He lived here, and then he left, and now he's back." But I'm telling you, in Lily's grandparents' neighborhood, when that lady said that, everyone just kind of smiled and nodded. But in truth, nobody remembered who this Mr. Sow was. Nobody remembered, everyone. So that day, Lily's grandmother was standing in front of the house, sweeping the yard or something. This neighbor lady led Mr. Sow past. When the neighbor saw Lily's grandmother, she called out, "Sister, sister. Oh my God, I have my cousin here. He used to live here, sister, do you remember him? Do you remember him? He used to live here, then he left, and now he's just back to visit, do you remember him?" But grandmother didn't remember. Grandmother, just like the other neighbors, didn't remember this Mr. Sow at all. But the neighbor lady was just so enthusiastic when she spoke, so everyone just smiled and nodded, pretending to remember, but really, no one did. And her grandmother was the same. So, while the neighbor and grandmother were chatting happily, this Mr. Sow just kept staring intently at the tree in front of the grandparents' house. He didn't say anything. He just stared intently at that tree. After a bit, because they were talking so excitedly, the grandmother invited them in. "Oh my God, come in. Come in, both of you, come in and talk more." The neighbor lady was having fun, so she followed the grandmother inside. Mr. Sow also followed the two women inside. But he kept looking at the tree outside. This tree was right in front of the grandparents' house. He just kept looking at the tree outside like that. Then, as they were talking, the grandmother mentioned the story. "Oh my God, this piece of land, while people nearby sell their houses and land, as soon as they announce it, they have a buyer. But my house, I don't understand why I've been trying to sell it for over 10 years. People come, and then they just leave. I don't get it. Like that rich lady. You saw, right? The other day she came to look at the land, she liked it. She liked it, so she came back to look again, intending to buy it. But then she looked over at the house across the street. Mrs. High over there put up a sign to sell her house, and suddenly she went over there and bought her house. And then she didn't buy my house. Isn't that strange?" The neighbor said, "Yeah, I don't know why either. Your land is so strange. Trying to sell for over 10 years, and it just keeps falling through. So weird." Just as the neighbor said that, Mr. Sow interjected, "Everyone." This was the first time he spoke. He said, "This house has a spirit, how can it be sold?" He said, "This house has a spirit, so how can it be sold?" When she heard that, her grandmother was stunned, but she didn't believe it. At that moment, the grandfather had just returned. He heard Mr. Sow say that, and he didn't believe it either. In short, her grandparents didn't believe it. As for the neighbor, she seemed to believe it, but she didn't dare say anything, because she knew the grandparents didn't believe, so she didn't dare add to it. They talked a bit more, and then the two of them left. After they left, the grandparents went inside and talked. Why did that guy say our house has a spirit so it can't be sold? How strange, dear." The grandfather said, Whatever he says, just ignore it. What's he talking about? There's no such thing." Suddenly, the next day, Mr. Sow came over by himself. He didn't come with the neighbor, his cousin. He came alone. At that time, grandmother was also sweeping the front yard. He said, "Ma'am, your land has a spirit. It can't be sold." That was the second time, right? Once yesterday, once today. The grandfather and grandmother heard it but didn't believe. They didn't believe, everyone.